three levels of mentor. There's like somebody that you came into the business with. There's, so where you guys are going, you're going through all those ranks at the same time. Then there's somebody that's just a little bit ahead of you, maybe that senior technician or that entry level engineer that's just gotten past that level. They can tell you how they got where they got. And then there's that big picture engineer or mentor, that one that see the whole thing, that big picture one there.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Engineering Greatness Podcast, a podcast for young professionals by young professionals. I'm Hunter Garrison, Laboratory Manager of Ninyo and Moore in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm here today with my co-host, Tyler Olfers. Tyler, introduce yourself.
Hey, everyone. I'm Tyler Olfers. I'm the Construction Materials Department Manager with ECS Southwest in Austin, Texas.
We're here to talk to each other today about our past in the industry and how we ended up where we're at today. So Tyler, why don't you start with your origin story, kind of where you started and how you got into the industry?
Yeah, sure. I was 18-year-old kid, just graduated out of high school, didn't really have a set path in mind. I was working for a department store at the time and pushing carts in for a department store. And my buddy drove up in his Camaro and said, "Hey, my neighbor just asked me if I wanted a job for the summer, and he asked if I knew anybody else who wanted a job. It's a real job." And, I said, "What do you mean by real job?" And he mentioned to me about the company's it's in the construction industry. It's got benefits. It's working for a lab. So he was all excited about it. So I was like, sure. He told me to show up at a certain time and date to an interview. And the gentleman that I was going to be interviewing with even gave him some of the answers to the interview questions that I was supposed to answer. He knew that we were young kids and didn't really have a whole lot of, speak for yourself and in perspective of, working in a professional world. And I wanted to share just, that question that he wanted me to answer. He said, "Hey, whenever he asks you, how much do you make where you work now?" He wants you to answer, "That's irrelevant." And I got pretty nervous about that. I was like, what? That was so bizarre. So I got into the interview, and this gentleman was a commanding kind of person, real strong voice. And when we got to the interview, first thing he asked me, was a lot different than I interview nowadays. But he said, "Can you handle the heat? Can you work overtime? Do you got a problem with this?" And then he said, "Okay, how much do they pay you where you work now?" And I looked at him, and 18-year-old kid, my voice might have still been cracking at the time. I said, "That's irrelevant." And he looked at me. He said, "Good." And he looked at me really close. He goes, "Good." So he kind of gave me that look like I passed his first test. So the way it kind of picked up from there is this guy kind of took to me and took me under his wing. I was working for a geotechnical and a construction materials testing company. I primarily worked in the laboratory doing soils and concrete testing, some of the initial basic things that you do when you first get in the industry. And he became my career mentor and just worked my way through the ranks there along the way. I think just to kind of lay out the origin, I think, we can maybe talk about our paths to where we got to now, but I'd like to pause that and shift over and ask you the same thing, Hunter. Where did you get your start at?
Well, that's cool. That's a cool story you have there. Kind of similar to you. I was just out of high school. My parents had just moved up to Henderson, Nevada. New place for me after graduating in just Southern California, and looking for a job. Job experience I had before was Disneyland. I worked there all through high school. Fantastic place to work. And then before that, Quiznos. I was a sandwich artist over there, toasting up sandwiches. Yeah. So after getting up to Henderson, Nevada, my father-in-law had worked for a company called SIS, and at that point they needed someone to go pick up all their concrete cylinders throughout the valley there. So I would start about 3 a.m. and go around and pick up cylinders for all the different hotels along the Las Vegas Strip, and then go around and hit all the different residential and commercial places all throughout the afternoon. And I had no idea what I was picking up. I had no idea I would drop it off in this magical place where there was a fog room and I had no idea what was going on, but until one day someone threw me an ACI strength testing and field grade 1 book. Again, what is this? You have to read this and figure it out. And I was like, all right, cool. So I started reading it, and very intimidating stuff. But by that time, I decided to move on over to Arizona, and just because there was a little bit more opportunity with some friends with actually getting out and living on your own, something I was interested in doing out of high school. And at that point, I got a few jobs out here and ended up getting a job at Western Technologies at a laboratory out here, and loved the lab, just fell right into it. After getting my initial start in the industry, you know, a lot of things happened. But before we get too much into that, why don't we talk about your current position, Tyler, and how you got there?
So, like mentioned in the intro, I'm currently the construction materials department manager at ECS in Austin, Texas. And so basically what that role entails is I'm responsible for the leadership position for right now about 40 or a little bit more than 40 field technicians and project managers in the construction materials testing world. So doing a lot of proposals and business development, and making sure we're getting to our projects and things on time, and kind of overseeing that operation. Pretty excited about getting to be in the position of recruiting and hiring technicians and project managers. I'd love to get to talk about my story and my path as starting out as a technician, especially when I'm hiring technicians, and to kind of give them that perspective that when I became a technician, it was always this stigma that you're a technician and you're going to be a technician for 25 or 30 years, and that's your job. But I've been able to be provided this environment that I can tell technicians about how they can turn this into a career. They could be, turn into an engineer one day, go to be an engineer and run an office, be an office manager if they want to. But starting out as a technician, is a great way to understand what we do. How I got there was working as a technician. I have a lot of thanks to my career mentor, the former Ron Boydston, who he was the one who interviewed me when I was that 18-year-old kid. Shortly, about a year after I worked at that particular company, he left and started his own geotechnical drilling company. And when he did that, he let me know. He's like, hey, in about 6 months, when I get this company off the ground, I might be giving you a call. He brought me over. I was, just turning 19 years old. He brought me over there to be kind of his right-hand man. So I worked for his geotechnical drilling company, learning about the different geologies and drilling all over Central Texas. We did a lot of wind farm stuff. I learned a ton about, subsurface sampling. I got to, I was in the back doors of all the testing labs, dropping samples off and stuff. And I got the opportunity to start taking the engineers out to lunch. So I was doing some really cool stuff at a young age. The economy took a dip, there in that 2008 time frame. The drilling company kind of dwindled down, and we finally went out of business in 2010. I jumped back into the testing and inspections world. That's what I knew. And I went to the company that I previously worked for. I worked as an inspector on toll roads that they were building out here. So I got to learn a lot more about roadway construction, learning about the different TxDOT procedures and methods and things. That's where I first became ACI certified. That's where they required you to have the ACI field grade 1. So that's where I got my first step into getting that type of certification. I worked for that company until about 2012, infrastructure and materials testing in the lab and in the field, both in geotechnical as well. And then there was an implosion there at that particular company that a lot of us were moving around. It was known that technicians would move from one company to the other. That's, I think, one of the challenges, with in the technician world is a lot of technicians might hop to another technician firm for another $1 an hour or something. But I think that kind of gravitates towards companies that don't have a real growth plan for somebody at the technician level. That career mentor, that same guy, he came to ECS, and he heard that a bunch of people were leaving where I was at. He called and asked me what I was doing. I told him that I'm leaving too. I'm going with this lab manager to his place, another company. And he said, no, you're not. He said, come over to the house this evening, bring a 6-pack of beer. And he goes, I'm going to offer you something that nobody can offer you. I was like, well, he's definitely a good salesman. So I went over to his place and I said, well, what do you got in mind? He goes, I want to offer you me. And I said, fair enough, Ron, nobody can offer me you. So what does that mean? So he, let me know at that point. He's like, I got about 5 or 6 more years in my career, and I don't feel like I have anybody that I can pass that along to on how to lead people and how to motivate people and how to manage people. So he was set on bringing me over to ECS as the senior laboratory technician. He said, whatever they're going to pay you, I'll pay you $1 more. Come over here and we're going to get you into project management. We'll get you into leadership. And I came over here and they did just that. I helped their accreditation status that they had here. I helped get their laboratory doing a little bit more testing than what they were doing. Got a little bit more consistency out of it. Then I got my stab at some project management, and I got promoted to what they call a field services manager after going through a laboratory manager position. And then that was from 2015 to 2018. Then Ron, he battled with cancer and ultimately passed away in 2018, and that's in August, and that's whenever I took the position that he had, and I have that position today where I'm at. And I got a little shrine of him right here, and a lot of the people that work here all knew him and stuff. He was a big name in our local industry. But where I'm at today, I would just say that anybody who's either coming up the ranks or getting out of school, getting into the construction materials testing or concrete industry in general, you got to take your licks and you got to get some experience in there, but you got to stick with it. And you need to have a mentor to kind of help you see that big picture when you go through the lows, because that's what's ultimately going to help you see it through. And just a little bit that I've gotten to know with you, Hunter, I'm really excited, to kick that question back to you. And I'll let you go with that now, please.
Oh man, that's a cool story. Yeah, that's it's mentors are the most important thing, I feel like, in this industry. And you have a lot of unintentional mentors too throughout your time. And just like I mentioned before, my brother-in-law who got me into this industry, he was a big mentor, and for me, and the one who got me, really pushed me to look for the jobs and actually go for it. And my current position, laboratory manager at Ninyo and Moore, I had to pinch myself many times after I even still today after getting it, because as you know, it's a hard path getting into this industry without any schooling, without any of that. Most of the time you're working in a lab where you're just the lowest on the totem pole, and it feels like there's no chance to get ahead. And that's going back to what I was saying about mentorship is you need them, man. I still talk to the first guy that taught me how to pound a Proctor.
Don't you have like multiple mentors, at the same time? I think that, it's something that you had said, and I've kind of thought about this. This is just like 3 levels of mentor. There's like somebody that you came into the business with. There's, so where you guys you're going through all those ranks at the same time. Then there's somebody that's just a little bit ahead of you, maybe that senior technician or that entry-level engineer that's just gotten past that level. They can tell you how they got where they got. And then there's that big picture engineer or mentor, that one that see the whole thing, that big picture one there. Tell me about some of your mentor, your experiences like that.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. So starting out at Ninyo and Moore, just working in the laboratory, Ian Lowry, one of the greatest lab supervisors that was ever to live. He really paved the path for a lot of the ways that I manage my people today. He had this great technique where when we would be getting ready for our certifications, anytime coming up, he would invite us over to his house for dinner. Nice. And we would be over there, and he would hammer in, what's the thoroughness of sieving? Okay, after sieving no more than 0.5% passes any given sieve, 1 minute of continuous hand sieving. All right, you got it. So, I mean, just great guy all around, and just really gave me the energy and drive to really start off with everything that I've gotten to today.
That's a great personal touch too, to bring you over to his house, not just like, all right, we're going to meet in the back lab. That's a really good idea to come out of that realm and that environment of work. Cause that probably really helped lock it in. I'm going to take a note on that.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. So yeah. And then just working there, I really, I had a great opportunity to do some more advanced testing than I had at some previous labs. So running triaxial shears, permeabilities, doing mixed designs for asphalt, concrete, and even getting out to go work on do a paving up at the Hermit Road, the south rim of the Grand Canyon. That was a fantastic job. I was probably about 23 years old on that one. And actually talking about working out of town, I was actually on an out of town position, working just outside of Gallup, New Mexico, when the current lab supervisor that we had decided to quit. And I remember them calling me up at that moment and saying, we need to get you down here right now. We're sending someone else up to take your position up there because the lab supervisor just quit. And I'm like, all right, well, you're not hiring anyone, or you're not putting out an ad. I'm your man. I'm coming down there right now, and the position's mine. So it was a challenge initially, not having any initial schooling. I know outside of some writing classes, that was one of my main interests was, writing fiction. And so I took a little bit of writing outside of that, but it was always so busy in the lab that usually pulled me more towards it. And but anyway, so obviously initially getting into that, there was a lot of learning curve with, Excel and a lot of these things where I'm having to, okay, go this and do this, but I did not like a lot of the forms I was using. So how do I go about it? So a lot of times it was just, okay, clicking where how the formula is and figuring out how the formula works in there. Oh, I got this. This is Excel's easy,
And then your mind just blows. You're like, I can do this. And you got to create a lot of things, especially, working in the laboratory. You got to think of ways to make things more efficient. And
so I mean, just hats off to Ninyo and Moore and companies like, it sounds like where you work as well, for really just letting people like me and having the faith in people like me and you succeed and fail, to get where we're at, because there's all kinds of ups and downs in this industry, and it's just great to be working for a company that supports that.
When you say successes and failure, how they say in order to be successful you have to experience failure. It just to draw some relevance to the work that we do, that where I really learned that perspective was breaking concrete cylinders.
Mm-hmm.
We're testing concrete cylinders till they fail. And then, at that failing point, that's where we know what the compressive strength is of the concrete. And so that's just a perspective of that something has to fail in order for the test to be a successful test. And it's a perspective that I think carries in anything, but it's kind of neat, we're here on, talking about concrete and there's a perspective with that, but that's absolutely, I always had this little bit of apprehension or insecurity with not having gone through formal schooling in college and, working for engineering companies and stuff and working with engineers, that I was like, man, this is going to come back and bite me one day. And it sounds like the group that you're with and the company that I'm with does a pretty good job at saying, what, it's what you do and what you're capable of doing, that's going to prove your worth. And even being able to be a part of the American Concrete Institute, the local and the national level, how being able to be on this podcast, Engineering Greatness. I even thought about it a few times. I think whenever I was loading up this background, looking at those words there, I was like, engineering greatness. I'm like, I'm not an engineer, but they're giving me the opportunity to be on here because it's about young professionals. And so whether you're an engineer or not, we're working in the engineering industry, and we're working with engineers. There's probably a lot of things that you talk to engineers about that helps them make their engineering decisions, and they come to you and they pick your brain about stuff, because you're the expert back there. You're the go-to one back there in the lab that can do all of those tests. Not only the theory, but you do know the theory by application, by doing those tests.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's wild. Yeah. it's been a, like there's still engineers that I can recall back from you know, when I was 19, and just hearing little things that they would say, I still take to this day. Still using my training, just little tips and little tricks they would give.
Yep, I have I mean, you say, it's so funny, you say something and it makes me trick. I feel like we probably been living vicariously the similar lives, you know, across the country, coming up in the industry. But I remember being 18, the engineer at that particular place I worked, walked past him in the hallway, and I knew that he was the office manager at the time. And he walked past me and he asked me, he's like, hey, what do you do for us? And I said, I break concrete cylinders. And you know, that's the entry level thing, you know, that I was doing. But, you know, his response was, that's a very important job you do. And,
Yeah.
you know, that meant a lot to me. So that's something that sticks with me to this day, that I try to make sure that, you know, I tell the technicians when they're coming in, they feel like they're just doing the same old, every single day. And they're not getting a chance to do this high level stuff yet. It's like, man, what you're doing right now, what we do is so important, you know. And our safety officer where I work now, you know, he, you know, tells technicians when they come in that, you know, our work that we do, our work, when you want to boil it down, is to protect the public. We're doing testing and inspections to make sure that these buildings are going to stand, that they're in compliance with the specifications and the design intent.
Right.
So the work that we do at all levels is very important. And I think it's really important to tell, you know, entry level and young professionals that are coming up in the industry, to remind them that what you're doing right now may not be where you feel like you need to be, where you feel like you should be, you know, for your end result. But you need to keep that in your mind, that what we're doing is very important.
Yeah. No, it's funny. It's funny you say that too, because I've heard this saying before. Come on, guys, easy down. We're testing materials, not saving lives. And I say, well, kind of, because if we didn't test the materials, we probably would lose a lot of lives to, you know. So yeah. So you mentioned ACI. Let's talk about how you ended up becoming involved with your local chapter there.
First, it started out, to be honest, going to the chapter meetings they always did here in the ACI Central Texas chapter. They were always lunch meetings. They still are today. They were lunch meetings. So initially, we started going to those on rainy days where there wasn't a whole lot going on. We would pile in the truck and we would drive up to the ACI meeting so we could get a free meal. You know, we'd pay our local membership fee, and then we'd get our free meal, and we'd get to listen to a technical presentation. I remember just going to that and just thinking that while I was sitting there, I was like, man, the guys that I'm riding to this thing with, they're just doing it because it's a rainy day deal. I'm going along with them. But while I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, this is kind of neat. This is like, I'm at work and I'm going to some meeting with like suppliers and contractors and engineers. And here I am, just a kid, you know, sitting in this thing. So I took it really seriously. As I got, you know, a little bit further into my career, it became more of a necessity. The company I work for now, Ron said, I want you to go to every ACI chapter meeting, and I want you to be at every single one of those. He's like, we need to have somebody there. And I want you to be there. So I just started going to all of those. And as I went, you know, those things work as networking opportunities. I started brushing shoulders with different people there. And then one day my name landed on the ballot to be on the board of directors. And then I got to work as the board of directors for a couple of years. And then I got the opportunity to fly to ACI National to go to their leadership training, which was awesome. It was like my company's leadership training, but I was there on behalf of ACI, so it was cool. And then I got to be the vice president of the Central Texas chapter. And then this year, 2022, as it's coming to a close, I was the president of the Central Texas chapter in this 2022 year. I'm going to be a part of it, you know, as long as I'm in this industry, whether it's in Central Texas, whether I come out there where you're at, Hunter, and start working with your team out there. I'm not leaving, but I mean, working with the industry out there on from the ACI perspective. But I think it's something that I always want to be a part of. Tell me a little bit about how you got integrated with ACI.
Yeah, well, that was my first experience with ACI was obviously getting the books thrown at me when I was younger, and then going through some certification trainings. But as far as with the chapter, it was actually on our first, the last time we had the convention out here in Phoenix. Ninyo and Moore actually supplied the compressor brake machine for the pervious concrete competition. So I was up there busting the cylinders for the pervious competition with one of my lab technicians. It was
you did it for the competitions?
Yeah, it was a really cool experience.
Nice.
And then very quickly after that, being involved with the Arizona Rock Products Association out here, and a lot of those members are also a part of the ACI chapter. Just so being a part of that, I ended up getting invited to go to some of the meetings, and ended up getting invited onto the board by Mr. Tom Villa with Rock Solid Materials. Shout out to Tom. And just was immediately just warmed by this inviting, really just salt of the earth group of people out here. I mean, I love the industry out here in Arizona. I love the community. I love the people that are a part of it, and just how inviting and welcoming they were to me. Because again, just like becoming a lab manager and supervisor, it was a pinch yourself moment. Here I am with some of these gods of the industry, just locally. I'm not even talking about getting to convention yet, because that's a whole other story. And man, it's just so heartwarming to know that we got this beautiful band of people out here that can get together all in the name of concrete. And I just can't say enough about our Arizona chapter out here. And just like you, about 5 years into it, I got asked to be part of the vice president. I was about 5 years into being involved with the board, and accepted it, kind of like, okay, not knowing what it was.
Right.
And there was a lot of opportunities where I was going to try to go to the leadership training beforehand, but then COVID and all that thing came around, and I ended up going. I did my first leadership while now I'm chapter president until 2024, and I did it within the first few months of it. Great experience. Can't say enough about that and the roundtable at the at convention, but yeah. Great ways to integrate into becoming an officer, becoming a chapter things. If there's like a what I wish I knew before becoming involved with the chapter, it's I wish I would have pushed to get onto the leadership and roundtable much earlier on. So that's a huge recommendation I can give to anyone out there that's even interested in becoming a part of a local chapter. Man, I could talk about ACI and all that. I just love it all so much. So let's just talk about, stay on topic with this right here. How does how does being a member of ACI locally and nationally help you and your organization?
I think locally, I've got to touch on the network experience that you can get out of it. So being in the testing and inspections world, for me, I like going to the technical presentations and stuff. I feel like some of the technical presentations are a little bit over my head, because we've got university students, and we've got people coming in and talking about their different research that they're doing. We've got the different suppliers coming in and talking about the different admixtures and the different replacements that they're wanting to use. But that networking, I think, has been really solid, because just being in the testing world, there had always been this division between supplier and testing agency. If something goes wrong with the concrete, it's the concrete technician did this and didn't do this.
It's always the lab's fault.
But what it's really helped is it's helped establish some diplomacy there, because I'm on the board with people from different suppliers and different members. The suppliers all come, and I think it really helps us know that, like, hey, we're all in this industry together. I think it kind of takes some of the finger pointing away, and when we all recognize that we're part of the ACI Central Texas chapter, it kind of makes us approach those scenarios in more of a team effort about, hey, what's going on and how can we avoid these things happening in the future? It makes those meetings a lot less confrontational. That's kind of at the local level. On the national level, I love the benefits. I love the web access to the different standards and specifications. Being able to quickly reference those, getting the discounts on the books and stuff whenever I buy those, because we need those. That comes in handy. And then just in general, I got to be a member for a subcommittee for ACI 117. That was always a dream of mine, is to be a voting member on one of these committees. because I think I had my big picture is I want to make a difference in the industry. Now while I'm working, and when I get much older, I want to be somebody who's influential on the way that things get done in the construction and in the concrete, specifically in that industry. So that's kind of my spiel on that. But
love it, man. I know that's great. Yeah, I mean, I think I already kind of talked my local chapter up pretty much, but yeah, I mean, locally, just like I said, the warm and welcoming, inviting nature that everyone's had, but also just you got this band of brothers out there that you can rely on for anything you need out there for advice to do for projects, for just what to do with some testing, anything you need out there. There's someone out there that you can kind of bounce an idea off of in your local chapter. Nationally, my first experience with the national group was at the Orlando convention. Great experience. Can't say enough about, but just like what you said, almost overwhelmingly, mind-blowingly technical, and it was great. But I mean, I kind of navigated myself in using that great app, and I found the laboratory certification committee, which been to two times now, and I'm have my application to become a member of that one. Cool. And then the young professional committee ended up swooping me up to become the West regional rep for the for that group. That's
an awesome group. Yeah. I was bummed that I missed the Orlando one, but I got to meet see that young professional group there in Dallas, and that was super cool.
Yeah, Dallas was great, because that was my second convention, and just within 5 minutes of being there, just the warm welcoming that I got from everyone, it was like I felt like a movie star there. I was like, whoa, I've only met I don't remember your name, but great group. I'm really excited about the future of ACI and the new young group that's going to be a part of it, and just everything that's going to come up. And like you, I'm all about training the youth to come up and test concrete right, test it, and give the option too. Give the option out there. Maybe school's not for everyone. Maybe school will end up being for someone. Maybe right now someone needs a job and needs a good job right away. All right, let's get you into testing some concrete. If you're willing to do it, let's get you certified, get you trained, let's get you in.
Absolutely.
That's kind of my main thing. We're trying to start a program with the East Valley Institute of Technology out here, concrete materials class. Right now we've been kind of having some industry help out there with the Mesa Community College concrete materials class, which is being held at EVIT. So we're really trying to push that and get that going. So, all right. So I guess we got to wrap up here soon, I think. But before we go, let's talk about let's talk about on the topic of convention. Let's talk about some of your standout experiences that you've had from convention.
So Dallas was this 2022 convention, the last one in fall. That was my first convention to go to. So I was really excited. The Central Texas chapter, sponsored and sent me out there. So that was an honor. So I was really excited to attend the roundtable that first Saturday morning. That was really great to get to see all the international representation. I had no clue how huge ACI was. I mean, I knew that ACI was in other countries and stuff. I didn't know how huge it was. So that blew my mind. So I think that motivated me. Just within minutes of our introduction that we did at roundtable, I just uttered, that I happen to be a musician and I brought my guitar. And Canette is like the ultimate networker that I've ever met. She pulled me aside at the first break and she said, "Hey, you brought your guitar?" And I was like, "Yeah." She said, "Hey, we're having a young professionals networking event on, I think, Sunday night. And we were just going to play some Apple iPod music or whatever." She's like, "But it would be way cooler if you'd be interested in performing." And so immediately I'm like, "Oh man, I got to put my money where my mouth is. I got to quit saying that." So immediately I went into yes, I'll do it. And she mentioned this podcast to me. So I think those are two really big standout things for me is I got to perform in front of, it was 200 or so young professionals at that awesome Hyatt hotel restaurant bar, right where that pool table was and stuff. That was so much fun just to kind of, I was in the background. That downtown Houston chapter kind of hosted it. They had a really fun game and an activity for everybody. That was really fun just to get to be in the background on that and just kind of pick around on my guitar and sing my songs and do something that has really nothing to do with concrete or the convention. I got to be my personal musician self and do that. It was really cool to watch those two worlds collide. So to me, that's going to be a lifelong memory for me.
Well, I was there for it. Bravo. That was a fantastic performance. And yeah, it was good job, Connect, for tying you guys together, because that was a great idea, and I feel like it's something that's gonna keep going, right?
I'll be happy to fly anywhere.
So I mean, as far as convention, man, like the first standout experience I can say was helping out with that first pervious concrete competition.
It was cool.
That was great. And then getting to be up there with ASU students on this last one, really cool to kind of learn and kind of be up there with them while they were learning about and preparing kind of where they went right, where they went wrong, and how we're going to prepare for the next one. The bowling ball competition, I believe it is, in San Francisco, where they're getting pretty charged up right now. I keep seeing some messages from them where they're talking about their new ideas. So it's going to be cool.
That's cool.
So yeah, I think some takeaways from today are stick with it. Always put in the work. You get out of this world what you put into it. That's a big thing that I've always tried to live by, and it sounds like my friend Tyler here as well.
Yeah, really well said.
Yeah. So I want to thank. Do you have anyone you want to thank right now before you go? Just for anything throughout your career.
Man, I give thanks, to the Lord, and I give thanks to Ron Boydston, got me into this industry and career. All of my support here at ECS, the leadership that we have here, they're tremendous. ACI local level, the great group. Connect and the ACI National, Denisha, and you, man. Nice meeting you. I've gotten just on fire, motivated, just meeting and getting to talk to somebody from another part of the country who's got a real similar story. It's got me on fire for this, and it's real nice meeting you. I look forward to staying connected with you too.
Likewise, man. Yeah, it's going to be. I'm excited for the future. That's the biggest. Always advancing, right? Always advancing. But yeah, I just want to thank Ninyo and Moore, my boss Craig, my boss and main mentor Craig Reese, Crystal Peterson, all those people out there, my awesome, incredible lab staff, each and every one of you, and just my family and ACI and Connect for putting us two together for this. So thank you. Thank you for joining us for the Engineering Greatness Podcast, a monthly podcast series brought to you by ACI.